must be mine. This misbegotten experiment shall never happen by order of the leader!
Hello, I'm Grayson Ottaway, the leader, one of the greatest Hulk villains of all time. The Hulk has made many enemies over the years, ranging from bitter military officers to monstrous humanoids. Out of all these supervillains, the leader was considered to be one of the Hulk's most formidable enemies, who outsmarted the superhero time and again. He was first introduced in Tales to Astonish comics and was created by Stan Lee and Steve Ditko. Also known as Samuel Stearns, the leader was initially just a chemical factory worker whose life takes a turn when exposed to gamma radiation. The leader last appeared in the MCU in The Incredible Hulk in 2008, and there are a lot of theories surrounding his comeback in the SheHulk series. Today, we will be exploring his origins and telling you everything there is to know about the leader. Before we go into our explanation, a little request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to this channel. A small click for you, but for us, means so much. Thank you. Let's begin.
I'm becoming the most powerful being to ever walk this planet, a virtual god!
The journey from Samuel Stearns to the leader. Samuel Stearns was born in Boise, Idaho, and was a rather dim-witted person before he mutated into the leader. After being alienated by his family, who preferred his brother over him, Stearns worked night shifts at a chemical research plant where he performed such tasks such as cleaning the place and getting rid of the waste. One night, a canister of waste material cracked open while he was disposing of it, and a lethal amount of gamma liquid spilled all over him. While he didn't notice any immediate adverse side effects, Stearns soon realized that the exposure to the gamma radiation had increased his intelligence to a great extent. He began learning and accumulating knowledge on various subjects, while the gamma radiation also started mutating his body. He turned into a green-skinned being with a relatively enlarged head, and Stearns soon abandoned his original identity and reinvented himself as the leader. He used his newfound intelligence to become a criminal mastermind. He even had an ambitious plan to set up spies and government agencies to uproot them and finally take control of the entire US government. Stearns then used his newfound knowledge to create an army of plastic-skinned humanoids who could fight for the leader and perform various tasks under his command. He soon came across the notable scientist Bruce Banner, also known as the Incredible Hulk, and the two often clashed and ended up in fights. Stearns once even hijacked Banner's wedding to Betty Ross by shooting Banner with a ray that transformed him into the Hulk at his wedding. As time passed, the leader realized that his newfound abilities were fading, and he made several attempts to retain them. However, he soon gave up and returned to being a regular member of society. He even got a job as a coroner's assistant in New York, wherein he was once again given an opportunity to visit the Gamma base to retrieve General Ross's dead body. Stearns saw this as his chance to get more exposure to gamma rays, which would then help him regain his lost powers. He then accompanied his co-worker to the Gamma base and killed him before leaving the place in an ambulance with General Ross's body. He followed Bruce Banner on his way to his old laboratory, but he discovered that Banner had already destroyed the gamma ray equipment by the time he'd reached there. Banner had turned into the Grey Hulk, and the leader offered the Grey Hulk a chance to get rid of Banner's mind within his body once and for all. In return, he asked the Grey Hulk to help him get Rick Jones's version of the Hulk into his own body in exchange for getting rid of Banner. The leader was determined to regain his powers, and he figured that he could use Rick Jones' gamma-mutated body in order to do so. The Hulk agreed to help the leader by using what little was left of Banner's brain to construct a new gamma-ray machine, and then they strapped Rick Jones's Hulk to the device. Hulk's experiment proved to be a success, as the Hulk managed to transfer Rick Jones's power into the leader just before the machine caused an explosion in the lab. While the Hulk and Rick Jones both believed that the explosion had killed the leader, the villain managed to escape with General Ross's dead body. He had his powers back, and this experiment even mutated the leader's head into an even larger cranium. He then used his regained intellect to develop a being known as the Half-Life that could fight against the Hulk. The leader used the Half-Life to distract the Hulk while he focused on creating technology to bring people back to life. He tested this technology on General Ross, who did return to life, but was not in the same state as before. He then expanded his follower base and even convinced 2 members of the former Hulkbusters to join his team. The Hulkbusters was a team of gamma-mutated beings led by Banner, and it consisted of beings who wished to make up for their mistakes and work for the good side. However, Redeemer and Rock soon left this team to join the leader, who sent them on a mission to steal a bomb from a government facility and set it up in Middletown, Arizona. The leader then mocked the Hulk for losing some of his team members and warned him about the bomb in Arizona. While the Hulk was overwhelmed by the chaos, the leader sent Rock and Redeemer to fight him. Despite being overpowered, the Hulk managed to defuse the bomb and even defeat the former Hulkbusters at the last minute. However, the leader was determined to emerge victorious. He then teleported to Middletown to manually trigger the bomb explosion. He had set up shield generators around Middletown to contain the bomb's effect, and the explosion then turned the place into Gamma Town. Only 5 people survived the explosion, and the leader got a hold of them and took them to Freehold. Freehold was an under-ice city set up by the leader in the Columbia icefields of Alberta, where he collected all gamma-mutated beings and victims of gamma radiation. He believed that Freehold would survive any attacks or invasions by alien species or any other world governments, and that the citizens of Freehold would repopulate on their own and look up to him as their beloved leader. All this time, the leader continued to develop new technology and stir up trouble for the US government. He once sent the team of UFOs to break into the Pantheon headquarters, which was home to all celestial beings that overlooked the Earth. The UFOs demanded to meet Agamemnon on the leader's behalf and struck a deal that stated that the Pantheon should come to Freehold's aid if their under-ice city ever needed them. The leader then reached out to Rick Jones and offered to revive his dead girlfriend if only he joined forces with him. Rick agreed to join him and arrived at the Freehold, where he learned that the leader had even revived General Ross. Rick then began doubting his decision to bring his girlfriend Marlo back to life, since he didn't want her to live as just a shell of a human being. However, the leader assured him that he had perfected the process of reviving the dead by then. He further revealed that one of the survivors of the Gamma Town incident was a priest who knew how to bring back souls along with the resurrected body. While the leader started the process of bringing Marlo back to life, Hydra launched an attack on Freehold in an attempt to take over the place. Agamemnon then sent the Hulk in the form of the promised aid, but he actually intended for the Hulk to destroy the leader and avenge the lives of everyone who had died in the Gamma Town incident. Hulk broke into the place while the leader resurrected Marlo. Rick Jones tried to stop the Hulk from destroying the place before they could revive Marlo, but in the meantime, the leader keenly observed Father McCall, that is, Soul Man, as he revived Marlo's soul, believing that he could later replicate this process to become immortal. However, Hulk soon barged into the room and destroyed the machine that brought beings back to life by throwing both the leader and Soul Man into it. Unfortunately, the machine exploded and the leader died in the blast. His spirit then possessed Omnibus, who was one of the beings who survived Gamma Town and devoutly looked up to the leader. The leader used Omnibus's body to launch several terrorist attacks and wreak havoc in the world. But Omnibus was soon put on trial by the citizens of Freehold. He was found guilty and was exiled to the Arctic Circle, where he died at the hands of a polar being. While the leader's spirit also died along with Omnibus, he later returned to life by using the green door that allowed gamma mutants to return to the real world.
A success. And now, we begin.
The leader was a part of several animated series. The leader appeared in various Marvel animated series and was voiced by Matt Frewer in almost all of them. He appeared in The Incredible Hulk, Iron Man, and Avengers: Earth's Mightiest Heroes, among other shows, and he had widely different appearances in all of them. While he appeared as a skinny, green-skinned human in The Incredible Hulk 1982, he had a more unnatural, humanoid-like experience in the Iron Man series. As the years went by, the leader's appearance kept changing and evolving, and mostly, his head kept getting increasingly elongated with each passing show. Samuel Stern's appearance in the animated series followed similar origins as the comics, and he was a part of the cleaning crew that was sent to Banner's lab after the gamma reactor test. While cleaning up the place, Stearns accidentally fell into a puddle of gamma radiation waste that was produced during Banner's transformation into the Hulk. He mutated into a green-skinned entity and discovered that the transformation gave him higher intelligence and strength. Stearns then dedicated his entire life to defeating the Hulk and teamed up with other villains such as Gargoyle and Abomination to do so. In the Marvel Animated Universe, the leader once got his hands on the rings of the Mandarin that gave him the ability to travel through time. Hulk then had to team up with Iron Man to get rid of the leader, but the villain kept returning to stir up trouble for the Hulk. When Bruce's body was separated from the Hulk, the leader got his hands on his body and paired it with his own mind. However, this match did not suit him, and he soon reverted back to his usual form. The leader was a recurring character in The Incredible Hulk animated series in 1996, and appeared in this show right from the first episode, titled Return of the Beast Part 1. While the Hulk tries to adjust to his new persona at the Gamma base, the leader spies on him by using tiny cameras disguised as spies. He then calls out to one of his own henchmen, known as Gargoyle, and declares that Bruce should not proceed forward with his experiments to get rid of the Hulk. He seems to believe that he created the Hulk, and that the Hulk's powers belong to him by divine right. Gargoyle reminds the leader of their bargain, and his desire to know why Bruce can turn into the Hulk and then return to his normal self, while he cannot do the same. While the leader reassures him by saying that he remembers their bargain, he soon tunes him out and returns to his screen where he spies on Bruce. Bruce and Betty talk about the day Bruce got exposed to the gamma radiation, and the leader also recalls the day while listening to their conversation. However, he does not see that accident as a curse, but instead calls it an historic day that changed a lot of lives. After the explosions at Bruce's lab, there was a lot of radioactive waste spread all over the place. Stearns was one of the men assigned to drive around the wreckage and pull all the radioactive liquid in a pit. Stearns ended up in an unfortunate incident wherein he lost his balance whilst standing on a makeshift platform right above the pit of the radioactive liquid. Though he was wearing a hazmat suit, his breathing tube got stuck on the platform and he fell face first into the bubbling liquid. His face became enlarged and his body underwent a painful transformation as he emerged from within the pit. Nevertheless, the leader believed that he was reborn this day, since he gained a lot of intelligence due to the accident. As the leader returned to the present, he declares that he must add the Hulk's strength to his own in order to become the most powerful being on Earth. When the leader learns that General Ross is allowing Banner to conduct an experiment to get rid of the Hulk, he throws a fit and declares that only he has the right over the Hulk's creation. He then sends Abomination, another mutant victim of gamma radiation, to capture Banner and put a stop to the experiments. While Abomination manages to break into the Gamma base headquarters, the leader keeps an eye on him through his cameras, and even spots General Ross holding a Gamma-based weapon. Gargoyle advises the leader to get Abomination out of the situation, and the leader finally orders Abomination to abandon the mission and return. However, Abomination does not listen, and ends up getting defeated by the Hulk. In the continuation of this episode, the Hulk goes on a rampage while General Ross's forces try to get a hold of him. He gets cornered by a bunch of strange animals with green eyes. while General Ross declares him a national threat. All this time, the leader spies on General Ross and the Hulk, and even sees the strange animals that seem to have cornered the Hulk. The leader explains that the blast that formed the Hulk also mutated some desert creatures known as the Outcasts. Then he orders Abomination to locate them. Abomination later finds Bruce in a cave with these outcasts, as well as Betty Ross and Rick, and he captures Bruce and takes him to the leader. They trap Bruce in a chair behind a glass cell, and the leader upholds his bargain with Gargoyle and allows him to interrogate Bruce. The leader then asks Bruce to transform back into the Hulk whenever he can, and reveals his plan to transfer Hulk's gamma energies into his own body by using an energy siphon. While this process will weaken the Hulk, the leader would gain an incredible amount of power that would make him nearly invincible. However, Bruce states that he feels extremely calm and mellow, and he tests the leader's patience by pretending to have a great time. Eventually, the leader orders Gargoyle to provoke Banner into turning into the Hulk, and the tiny monster then sends electric shocks through Banner's chair. While Bruce tries to put on a brave face, Gargoyle and the leader keep exposing him to the shocks until Betty Ross and Rick appear at the scene to save Bruce. The Outcasts also accompany them, and chaos breaks out as the leader tries to defend his lab from them all. Eventually, all the chaos causes Bruce to transform into the Hulk, and the leader watches in satisfaction as the Hulk's energies transfer to his body by using the energy siphon. He cries out in pain as his head and body expand, and he even declares that he is experiencing more power than he could ever dream of. While the Hulk keeps getting smaller and smaller, he watches helplessly as Abomination gets a hold of Betty. The Hulk starts to feel angry, and he surprisingly returns to his usual self, while the leader screams in agony as his body shrinks back to normal too. Since the two are still connected through the energy siphoning cables, all the power returns back to the Hulk, who finally breaks free from his cage. He then lunges at Abomination and punches him to the ground, while Betty manages to get away. In the meantime, the leader struggles to catch his breath after gaining and losing so much energy, and even faces a blow when Gargoyle betrays him and steals their databanks. While the Outcasts, Rick, Betty, and the Hulk make their way out of the base, the leader crawls on the floor and exclaims that he was so close to getting Hulk's power. He later reappeared in further episodes of the show with even more determination to get the Hulk's power and become the strongest being on Earth. Besides the Incredible Hulk, the leader also appeared in other series such as Hulk and the Agents of Smash, Avengers Assemble, and Marvel Future Avengers later in the years. His role in The Incredible Hulk movie, 2008. The leader had different origin story in the MCU, wherein he was portrayed by Tim Blake Nelson in The Incredible Hulk, 2008. After moving to Brazil to avoid facing General Ross, Bruce Banner started looking into ways to control the Hulk, and even to get rid of him. He anonymously kept in touch with a scientist named Mr. Blue, and even sent him some blood samples to study the effects of the gamma radiation in detail. After returning to the USA, Banner was even more determined to find a cure for his current state. He urged Mr. Blue to meet with him, and they finally met at his lab in New York City. Bruce discovered that Mr. Blue was a cellular biologist named Dr. Samuel Stearns. We learned that Stearns had successfully prepared an antidote for the Hulk, but it only worked as a reversing agent for each transformation. Stearns further tells Bruce that he has synthesized all the blood samples sent to him, and that he was hopeful about their usefulness in medical studies. Bruce did not wish for his blood to fall into the wrong hands, and intended to destroy all of it before leaving the lab. However, they were ambushed by General Ross and Emily Blonsky's combined forces before Bruce could take the antidote or destroy the blood samples. Emil Blonsky then learned about the blood samples and ordered Dr. Stearns to inject him with Bruce's blood. Dr. Stearns objected to this and warned Blonsky about the dangers of mixing their blood, but he was forced to carry out the experiment anyway. Blonsky then mutated into a being known as the Abomination. while Dr. Stearns watched in horror as this monstrous being started creating a mess in his lab. Abomination then attacked Dr. Stern, who unsuccessfully tried to dodge the attack, but ended up with a cut on his forehead. In the midst of the chaos, some of Banner's gamma-infused blood ended up in Dr. Stern's forehead wound and caused a reaction. Stearns then started mutating into the entity we now know as the Leader, but the movie left his fate ambiguous, and there is a chance that Stearns may not have even survived the transformation. How She-Hulk explores the Leader, and what can we expect going ahead? The Leader, or rather Samuel Stern's story arc in the MCU, was left incomplete in The Incredible Hulk, and he had no other appearances for a very long time. However, we can expect the Leader to appear in She-Hulk, as the show incorporated one other notable Phase 1 character, the Abomination. Since Abomination worked for the Leader for a long time, we can certainly expect to see this villain make an appearance at some point in the show. On a different tangent, Samuel Stearns may also appear to aid Jennifer or even Bruce in the She-Hulk series. Stearns was a notable cellular biologist in the MCU, and he also turned into a gamma mutant in the same manner as She-Hulk due to exposure to the Hulk's blood. While we don't know if Stearns even survived the transformation into a gamma mutant, there is a high chance that he did manage to prevent his death, since he was an expert at working with gamma radiation. While Stearns could appear as a villain determined to take his revenge, there is a good chance he may even appear as an ally to She-Hulk, or even as one of Bruce's friends. One theory even suggests that Stearns played a role in Bruce Banner's human transformation, and we can even hope to see Mark Ruffalo's Hulk and Tim Blake Nelson's Leader come together for the first time in this series.
And that message is, do not be scared. The gamma dome that is formed in the American...
What makes him so powerful? After being exposed to gamma radiation, Samuel Stearns transformed into a skinny, green-skinned entity known as the Leader. In his new form, Stearns discovered that exposure to gamma rays had increased his knowledge and intelligence beyond the scope of human beings. The Leader was an extremely intelligent entity with profound knowledge and mastery over any subject matter in the world. The gamma rays had transformed his brain into a highly advanced organ that could recognize patterns, predict future outcomes, and store memories and information with unnatural accuracy. The Leader used his newfound intelligence to create an array of technologically advanced weapons and bombs, and he mainly worked with gamma radiation and genetic engineering. He used his knowledge to create weapons that could destroy humanity or stir up trouble for his villains. The Leader had even created an army of soldiers known as humanoids, who were programmed to perform various tasks and even fight for him. Beside his intelligence, the Leader also had telekinetic and telepathic powers that enabled him to control the minds of ordinary humans by just touching them. He could wipe their memories, create illusions, or even disguise himself in order to distort reality. The Leader also had the ability to change himself back to Samuel Stearns, but this process caused him to lose all memories of his new identity. Since Stearns' mind was not as advanced as the Leader's, he struggled to cope with all the knowledge and usually preferred to stay in the mutated form. Using his newfound knowledge, the Leader invented a revivo beam that could bring him back to life whenever he died. He was also able to resurrect himself by using a green door every time he died, and was a near-immortal entity that could never be truly destroyed. He could also manipulate gamma radiation at will, and had conducted several experiments to test the line between life and death. After much research, he even acquired the ability to summon gamma mutates across the Earth at will. While the Leader was gifted with many powers, he did not put them to good use, and was mostly obsessed with defeating the Hulk. He was often blindsided by his arrogance, which only led him to act prematurely and ruin his own plans. Conclusion. To sum it up, the Leader created quite a bit of trouble for the Hulk, and was one of his most formidable opponents. While he was the Hulk's arch-enemy in the comic books, it is quite unfortunate that his story arc was never fully utilized by the MCU. The leader surely has a lot of potential to be incorporated in the SheHulk series, as well as other MCU projects, and we hope to see more of him in the near future. And if you like our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. Have a good one. Please be safe. Thank you.